Hey, this is Dan Prince. I wanted to talk a little bit about the undercloud and the feedback loop between the overcloud and the undercloud, and how we might improve what I'm showing as the dark owl in this picture. Um, so the feedback loop, traditionally in TripleO, some of the principles we've strived for over the years, we try to use OpenStack where possible. We're trying to promote reuse across both the undercloud and the overcloud. And the nice thing about this is that when you develop or deploy a new OpenStack feature, it's available to the installer as well as the end user. And doing these things, you get less work. Life is good, and it's something we would like to get back to, I think. So a little bit of history. TripleO, wind back a couple of years, used to use what we call elements everywhere. These are disk image builder elements. We had a deployment scenario where you would start with a seed VM, and then you would deploy a either single or multi-node undercloud, and then you could from there deploy an overcloud. And the nice thing about this was that the feedback loop was there. We used elements to install the seed, the undercloud, and the overcloud. The seed was a bit of a problem in that you had to have one to be able to bootstrap things, and it was a sort of a special case undercloud. But we had the reuse, and so the loop was there. Today, we've got a little different situation. We've got an undercloud that actually still installed largely using elements. It's using a tool called Instack to run the elements on a local machine. So we've actually sort of solved the seed issue in that you can go directly to an undercloud. It's a single node undercloud though. There's no longer a multi-node undercloud option. And then for the overcloud, we actually have moved to deploying it using heat templates. So we have some feedback in this system. We use a shared configuration tool called Puppet for both of them. But that's not enough. If you add a new feature in the overcloud, you often have to go and do, a separate patch to do the same thing in the undercloud. So what I'm proposing here is a new approach to the undercloud, and it's bringing back undercloud.yaml. So a couple of things. I was on PTO last week, and I had a chance to tinker with some of this stuff, and been polishing it up this week a little bit as well. One of the things was a single process heat launcher called Heat All. And so the idea with this is that you would basically launch a single process heat that would run both the API and the engine at the same time. And by doing that, it lets us use a fake Rabbit driver. And we can actually also use SQLite as a database. And so, basically we avoid the message queue and we avoid the database dependencies there by running single process. Then we also run no auth, so we don't have to have Keystone. For Heat, we actually you can actually put a little Keystone shim in there to satisfy a couple of the internal Keystone requirements. But effectively, we're running with no authentication. This is would only be appropriate for a local machine sort of deployment. And then a couple other things. We're still using some Instack for the elements that we use in the overcloud as well. So that would be things like OS collect config, the hooks, and whatnot. And then the composable services work we've recently done in TripleO heat templates is also sort of integral to this approach in that we can reuse a lot of the work there to create an undercloud by just simply specifying the services we want to be in the undercloud. What I've done is I've actually done a prototype of all this. There's a couple of patches, and then the last thing is sort of tying it all together in a new Python TripleO client command. So I'm going to go into my dev environment now, and I've got a couple of projects here, all with, I'll show you just the patches that are in play here. In Heat, what I've currently deployed in this virtual machine is my heat all patch. So there's an all-in-one launcher there. That's the second commit down, and that allows you to run single process. And then there's a new no auth middleware piece that effectively disables the keystone auth for the heat API. The second project is heat templates. There was a patch, because we're not running the heat CFN API, I needed to do a little extra hook for the OS apply config so that we get signals back to the heat API instead of which normally go back to the CFN API. So this is basically a new heat hook that runs OS apply config and gives you a signal immediately once OS apply config runs to apply the metadata on the machine. We use this for some things in heat templates still, in TripleO heat templates. For things like Hyra specifically, we still use OS apply config. The next patch is in Python TripleO client. This is the biggest patch, but it basically, it's a new command. It's gonna basically bootstrap things. It's gonna run instack to bootstrap OS collect config on this machine. And the second thing it's going to do is it's actually going to it's going to fork exec a heat API engine process using doauth. It's going to spawn a thread that's basically a keystone shim that allows the noauth to work with some of the heat libraries. And then the last thing it's going to do is last two things. It'll create a heat stack for the Undercloud, which could be of any services that you've listed there, and then it's going to start OS collect config, and that will actually drive the deployment locally on the machine, and that'll talk to the local heat API, and it'll essentially go through that loop until the heat stack finishes. Before I run this, I've also got a TripleO heat templates Undercloud template here that I've actually mocked up. And I've got a single service for NTP there listed. And so this is actually going to, this is a new composable service. We've got a bunch of them. This is just a simple one for this demo. I've mocked in the endpoint map. Down here, I'm just running a couple of steps like we normally do. We take a stepwise approach for the deployment. And then let me go ahead and kick this off. I've got the command here. This is going to run OpenStack Undercloud deploy templates. And let's kick it off. So while that's there, let me go into another window. And so let me go back there. So the first thing that's happening is instack's running. It's going to bootstrap the OS collect config and the heat hooks that are required. And so this is a much lighter weight version of instack than just a few elements versus what instack Undercloud installs. And then the second thing that happens is heat API is now being launched. So let's go to the other window while this is happening. Let's run PS tree here. So you can see heat API is launched, and now you can see in the process tree there, OpenStack, that's my command line client. And then heat all is running as a forked process, and OS collect config is also running. It's talking to heat API. And that's happening. All the logs are coming back to the console here for both heat and OS collect config. You can see Puppet's running. It's just going to do this. I've got 3 steps. It's going to do that for each step. Step through it, and then when it's finished, it should return as Undercloud complete. Yep, there it is. And so we should have NTP is now running. So there it is. That's the demo. A lot of stuff. Now let's talk about why now. Now I think it's a good time to get into this because we've just finished up, or we're polishing up to finish the composable services in Newton for TripleO heat templates. So all of those things make it sort of a driving force for me to do this, in that we could share the work across the Undercloud and the Overcloud again. I also like that because we'd be using heat templates again, this gets us back, with a path towards a multi-node HA Undercloud, I think. Heat templates if we were to either introduce a no-auth ironic, we could possibly, deploy directly using the setup, the prototype I just showed you. Or you could, bootstrap an undercloud, take a sort of seed undercloud approach, and then deploy from there, an HA undercloud. That's maybe a little more weird. But I think getting back to heat templates is possibly going to get us an easier path to the HA undercloud. And then the last thing is containers. The work that's going on with containers for the overcloud, all of that would be appealing for the undercloud as well. And so, getting back that feedback loop for that and being able to consume those in both places would be nice. And a second angle on containers is we could possibly package up all of the undercloud bootstrap deployment in a container itself. I didn't mention this, but though the heat and the keystone stuff is actually running on non-default ports so that it won't impact the deployment of heat alongside of this installer. But the container would just take that a step further and isolate the packages and everything nicely. So there's some potential more iterations and work that could happen with this. I've got a link here to an Etherpad with a bunch of the patches that are out there right now, and there's a second link for TripleO docs, and that's it. So thanks for watching.